Title. My wife said she had an office conference, but one slip about Jake made her hands tremble. When Claire told me she had to attend an office conference out of town, I didn't think much of it. She worked in marketing, and such events were routine. Still, something in the way she said it lingered in my mind. Her tone was careful, almost too careful, and her eyes didn't meet mine the way they usually did. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. After all, we had been married for 7 years. Trust was the foundation we had built everything on. Or so I thought. She left early that Friday morning, suitcase in hand, heels clicking on the tiles. She kissed me goodbye, but it was rushed, almost rehearsed. "Don't wait up," she whispered. Then she was gone. I spent that weekend trying to distract myself, but the silence in the house felt heavier than usual. Every message she sent was short, clipped, without warmth. On Sunday night, she finally returned. I expected her to look exhausted from long meetings and endless networking. Instead, she looked strangely radiant, like someone who had been living a different life for just a few days. I asked casually how the conference went, and she nodded quickly, almost too quickly, saying, "It was fine. Just work, you know." But then came the moment that changed everything. She slipped while telling me about her trip. Her phone buzzed, and she fumbled with it, her hands trembling. "It's just Jake from the office," she said, trying to laugh it off. The way his name rolled off her tongue, soft, familiar, sent a shiver down my spine. Jake. A name I had heard before, mentioned casually in conversations, always paired with that same nervous laugh. I watched her closely as she avoided my eyes, fingers shaking as she set her phone down. I didn't say anything right then, but a storm had already started brewing inside me. Something about Jake wasn't right, and Claire's trembling hands told me more than her words ever could. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, the name Jake echoed in my mind. I replayed her reaction again and again. The trembling hands, the forced laugh, the way her eyes darted anywhere but at me. Claire wasn't usually careless with her words. She was sharp, calculated, always in control of herself. That slip was more than an accident. It was a crack in the mask she wore. The next day, I asked her casually, "So did Jake go to the conference too?" Her face stiffened for a second, but she quickly forced a smile. "No, of course not. He stayed back at the office." Her voice was steady, but her fingers clenched the mug she was holding just a little too tightly. I let the question die there. But inside, my suspicion grew like a fire that refused to go out. Over the next week, I began noticing things I had ignored before. Late-night texts that she hid by flipping her phone screen down. Sudden bursts of laughter while she typed away. A perfume on her clothes that wasn't hers, or mine. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, but every detail was a puzzle piece falling into place. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed again. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity gnawed at me until I gave in. The message on the screen was short. "I miss you already. Last weekend felt unreal." My stomach dropped. It was from Jake. When she came out wrapped in a towel, humming to herself, I forced a smile as if nothing had happened. My heart pounded in my chest, but I knew I couldn't confront her without proof, real proof that couldn't be denied. So I waited and watched. The following Friday, she told me again about a late office meeting. My chest tightened, but I simply nodded, pretending to believe her. As soon as she left, I grabbed my keys and followed her car at a safe distance. Every nerve in my body stretched thin. I kept my headlights dim as I trailed her through the city. She drove with a strange ease, humming to the radio, unaware that I was just a few cars behind her. My pulse hammered louder with every turn she took, until finally, she pulled into a dimly lit parking lot. Not near any office building, not near a conference center, but outside a quiet little restaurant. I parked far enough to stay hidden and watched as she stepped out, smoothing her dress with trembling fingers. Minutes later, a man emerged from the shadows. Jake. He didn't look surprised to see her. He looked like he had been waiting. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen in years, her face lighting up with warmth that she no longer saved for me. Then, without hesitation, she leaned into his arms. The sight hollowed me out. It was as if the ground beneath me gave way. Every late-night excuse, every dismissive laugh, every trembling hand suddenly made perfect, devastating sense. I wanted to storm out, to drag her back home, to demand the truth, but I couldn't move. I sat there, frozen, watching the life I thought I had built crumble in front of me. They went inside together, holding hands as if they had done it 100 times before. I could have left, but I needed to know just how deep this betrayal went. So I waited. An hour passed before they came out again, laughing softly, her head resting on his shoulder. She looked weightless, free, as though I had never existed. I didn't follow them after that. I didn't need to. The truth was clear, written in her smile and his touch. Driving home alone, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to let them fall. When she finally walked through the front door later that night, pretending to be tired from her conference, I was waiting. I looked her in the eye, my voice steady but cold. "How was Jake?" Her face drained of color. Her hands trembled again. And in that silence, everything between us shattered.